You want to own a nightclub. Sure, you've got the cash, and in your head it already looks perfect. Velvet ropes, a line around the block, your name on the door. But before you sign anything, let's do the math together. Because this business breaks more millionaires than almost any other, and nobody tells you why until it's too late. Just like buying a restaurant or a bar, owning a club starts with one number, the entry ticket, and that number depends entirely on what kind of club you actually want. There are basically 4 tiers on the menu, and the difference between them isn't just price, it's how much of the night you actually control. The cheapest way in is the neighborhood bar club. Small room, a DJ in the corner, maybe a 200-person capacity. If you take over an existing spot with a lease already in place, you're looking at anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000 to get the keys, the license, and the equipment. It's affordable, it's forgiving, and if it fails, you don't lose the house. But it's also the tier where margins are thinnest and where you're one bad winter away from closing. But let's leave that for the cautious. You didn't come here to run a corner bar. You want a real club. For that, you're stepping up to the mid-market venue. 600 to 1,000 people, a proper sound system, a real bar program, a green room for talent. Building one of these from an empty shell will run you somewhere between $800,000 and $2 million, depending on your city and how much construction you're doing. This is the tier where most serious club owners live, and it's also where most of them quietly go broke, and I'll show you exactly why in a minute. If you want to go bigger, you're now in the destination club. 1,500 capacity, multiple rooms, bottle service tables that cost more than a car, a lighting rig that belongs at a stadium. To build one of these from scratch in a major market, you're realistically spending $3 to $7 million before a single guest walks in. These are the clubs with names you recognize, and the ones that show up in the news when they open, and again when they collapse. And then there's the top of the food chain, the mega club. Think of the giants in Las Vegas. Some of these venues reportedly cost $40 million or more to build, hold thousands of people, and pay a single headlining DJ 6 or 7 figures for one night's work. To be clear, you don't really buy one of these. They're built by casino companies and hospitality conglomerates as loss leaders to fill hotel rooms, and they're almost never for sale to an individual. So admire them, screenshot them, but cross them off your list. Okay, I'm guessing you've mentally picked your tier. Let's say the mid-market club, 600 to 1,000 people. Good choice. Now, where do you actually get one? You've basically got 3 doors. Door number 1 is the simplest. You build it from scratch. You find an empty warehouse or a dead retail space, you gut it, you design it, and you make it exactly what you dreamed. The upside is total control. The downside is time and money bleeding out of you for months. Permits, soundproofing, fire code, plumbing, electrical loads big enough to power a small town. In most major cities, getting a brand new venue from empty room to opening night takes anywhere from 12 to 24 months. And here's the part people forget. During all those months, you're paying rent on a building that earns you nothing, but you're impatient, and you don't want to overpay for a year of construction dust. So you look at door number 2, buying an existing club. This works a lot like buying a house or a car. Somebody already did the build-out, the license is attached, the sound system is bolted to the ceiling. You walk in, sign, and open next weekend. Sounds smart, right? Usually it is, but you have to ask the one question every buyer forgets to ask. Why is the current owner selling? Sometimes it's a clean retirement, but very often that club is being sold because the neighborhood turned, the crowd moved on, or the noise complaints from the new apartments next door are about to get the license pulled. You might be buying a business, or you might be buying someone else's ticking clock. Which brings us to door number 3, the cleverest and the most dangerous, the distressed sale, the club that already failed. Restaurants and clubs have one of the highest failure rates of any small business, and when they go under, everything inside gets sold for pennies. The lease gets assigned, the equipment gets auctioned, sometimes the whole operation changes hands for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. You can walk into a fully built, million-dollar venue and take it over for a couple $100,000. It sounds like the deal of the century. Well, almost. Because there's one catch that can quietly turn your $200,000 bargain into the most expensive club in the city. And I'll come back to that, because you need the rest of the picture first. Okay, the deal is done. You've signed the lease, shaken hands, and you're standing in the middle of your empty club at 2 in the afternoon. Sunlight coming through the door, imagining Saturday night. And now here's the bill for your very first day of ownership. Before you've sold a single drink. before anyone has danced, just to keep the doors legally able to open. Let's break it down, piece by piece, because this is where the fantasy meets reality. Start with rent. A venue big enough to hold 1,000 people needs serious square footage in a location people actually want to go to. In a major city, you're easily looking at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, and in the hottest districts, a lot more. That's due whether it's a packed Saturday or a dead Tuesday. Next, the license. This is the one nobody respects until it destroys them. A full liquor license, the kind that lets you serve until the early morning, is not a form you fill out. In some cities it's cheap. In others, where the number of licenses is legally capped, an existing one can sell on the open market for hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes over $1 million, and it's not permanent. It's a leash. One serious violation, one underage sting, a few too many noise complaints, and the city can suspend or revoke it. And a nightclub without a liquor license isn't a business. It's an expensive, empty room. Remember that phrase. It's going to matter. Now, staff. On a busy night, a large club runs a small army. Bartenders, barbacks, servers, cocktail waitresses, door staff, coat check, cleaners, and a floor manager. But the single biggest line item, the one that shocks first-time owners, is security. Professional, licensed door security and floor security aren't cheap, and you legally cannot skimp on them. On a big weekend night, staffing a 1,000-person club can cost you several $1,000s in wages before you factor in a single tip. Then there's the talent. If your whole draw is the DJ, then the DJ has leverage. A solid local resident might cost you a few hundred a night. A regional name with a following, a few thousand. And a genuine touring headliner, the kind whose name you put on the flyer to guarantee a sold-out room, can cost anywhere from $10,000 to well over $100,000 for one night. And here's the trap. You have to pay that fee whether or not the room fills. The DJ gets paid the same on a rainy Wednesday as on a perfect Saturday. Then the invisible costs. Your liquor inventory, which you buy up front and pray you sell. Your insurance, and club insurance is brutally expensive because insurers know exactly what happens when you mix alcohol, crowds, and darkness. Liability coverage for a venue this size can run tens of thousands a year, and it climbs every time there's an incident anywhere in your city, not just yours. Then utilities, because a full lighting and sound rig plus air conditioning for 1,000 sweating bodies is a genuinely enormous power bill. Then marketing, promoters, social media, the constant hustle of convincing people that this weekend is the weekend. Put it all together, and a mid to large club can burn through $100,000, $150,000 a month just to exist. Empty, no party, no profit, just standing there, legally alive, waiting for the weekend. Now remember that failed club you bought for $200,000 at the distressed sale? The deal of the century? Here's the catch I promised you. If that club sits dark for even a few months while you renovate and re-permit, those fixed costs, the rent, the license fees, the insurance, the loan payments, eat your entire discount alive. And if the reason it failed in the first place, the bad location, the noise complaints, the dead neighborhood, hasn't changed, then you didn't buy a bargain. You bought the exact same problem the last owner ran away from, just at a lower price. That's why rule number one in this business is simple. A club that isn't packed isn't an asset. It's a liability with a nice sound system. Okay, we've covered the costs. Now let's talk about the part you actually came for. How do you make money? And here's the thing almost nobody outside the industry understands. The drinks are not really where the money is. Not the way you think. A nightclub makes its real money on a handful of specific things. And the biggest one, in the high-end tier, is bottle service. This is the genius of the whole model. Instead of selling one customer one $10 drink, you sell a table of 6 a $500 bottle of vodka that cost you maybe $30 wholesale. The markup is enormous, sometimes 8, 10, 15 times the cost. Those tables aren't paying for alcohol, they're paying for status, for the best view of the room, for the sparkler-lit parade when the bottle arrives. In a top destination club, bottle service can be the majority of the entire night's revenue, driven by a small number of tables spending huge amounts. Then there's the door. Cover charge. On a strong night, thousands of people paying $20, $30, $40 each just to walk in adds up fast, and that money is almost pure margin. Then the bar itself, standard drinks at a healthy markup. And then the extras, coat check, private event bookings, corporate buyouts, brand-sponsored parties where a liquor company pays you to host their launch. So how much can a good night bring in? A packed, well-run mid to large club can gross tens of thousands of dollars in a single Saturday. A mega club in Las Vegas on a holiday weekend with a superstar DJ can reportedly pull in over $1 million in one night. Not bad, right? But here's the brutal catch, and it's the whole game. Your revenue is not spread across 7 days. It's crushed into 2. This is the single most important number in the entire business. For most clubs, Friday and Saturday are essentially everything. Some venues get a third strong night, but that means you pay rent, staff, insurance, and licensing for a full week, and you have roughly 2 nights to earn all of it back. 2 nights to cover 7 days of costs, and those 2 nights are a cardiogram. They swing wildly. A perfect Saturday with a hot DJ and good weather can carry your whole month. But cancel that DJ, get 3 straight weekends of rain, lose your buzz to the newer club that opened down the street, and suddenly your 2 money nights are half full, and the math flips from black to red almost instantly. 'Cause here's the cruelest truth about this business. You don't control the thing that matters most. You don't control whether your club is cool. A nightclub's real asset isn't the building or the sound system. It's being the place people want to be seen this month. And that is the most fragile thing in all of business. It can't be bought outright, it can't be locked in, and it has a shelf life. Industry veterans have a grim rule of thumb. The average serious nightclub has a hot window of only a few years before the crowd. Chasing the next new thing simply moves on. The lights are the same, the drinks are the same, the DJ is the same, and one season the line out front just isn't there anymore. And nobody can quite tell you why. Let me put a face on this. Think of the boom and bust careers of the big nightlife operators, the ones who build empires of clubs across multiple cities. There's a well-known pattern in this industry. An operator opens the hottest venue in town, expands aggressively on the strength of it, opens 3, 4, 5 more clubs riding the same reputation, and then the trend turns, the flagship cools, the debt from the expansion comes due all at once, and the whole empire folds almost as fast as it rose. It has happened to some of the most famous names in nightlife history. The people who understand this business better than anyone on earth still get wiped out by it, because the crowd is loyal to no one. And it's not just taste that can end you overnight. It's the outside world, a citywide crackdown on late-night licenses, a recession where the bottle service crowd suddenly stops spending, a new luxury apartment building next door whose residents file noise complaints until your license is gone, and, as an entire generation of club owners learned the hard way during the pandemic, a public health emergency that can legally shut every dance floor on the planet overnight, with fixed costs still ticking the entire time. So yes, it's a hard business. But let's be optimists for a second. Let's say you got lucky. The DJ is hot, the weather cooperated, the neighborhood loves you, the license is clean, and for 2 glorious years, you are the place. Can you picture it? Well, even then, your problems aren't over, because a nightclub can end in a single catastrophic night, in ways almost no other business can. The nightmare that haunts every serious owner is the crowd disaster. The most infamous is the Station nightclub fire in Rhode Island in 2003. It started with the most routine thing imaginable: pyrotechnics during a band's set. The foam soundproofing on the walls caught, and in a matter of minutes a packed club became a death trap because the exits couldn't clear the crowd fast enough. 100 people died. And just like that, fire codes and occupancy laws for venues across the country were rewritten. Almost every crowd safety rule you now see, the marked exits, the capacity limits, the fire retardant materials, was paid for in tragedies like that one. Then there's the crush. Overcrowding disasters, where too many people are packed into too small a space and the crowd itself becomes lethal, have killed hundreds at nightlife events and venues around the world over the decades. And when that happens in your club, the investigations, the lawsuits from families, the fines, and the criminal liability don't just close the business. They can follow you personally for the rest of your life. Keep that in mind every single time you're tempted to let in just 50 more past capacity on a big night. And then there's the slower, quieter killer that gets far more owners than any fire: the license death. One violent incident that makes the news. One underage drinking sting. One neighbor with a lawyer and a grudge who files complaint after complaint. The city holds a hearing, and your liquor license, the single most valuable thing you own, is suspended. No explosion, no headline disaster. Just a letter from the licensing board, and a business that was worth millions on Friday is worth nothing on Monday. All right, I hope none of that has scared you off. Because now, finally, let's do the real math. You bought your mid-market club all in for $1 million. What actually happens? Let's start with the optimistic scenario. You're the hotspot. 2 packed nights a week, strong bottle service, a healthy door. Say you gross around $150,000 in a good month. Subtract rent, subtract your full payroll and security, subtract talent fees, subtract liquor costs, subtract insurance and utilities and marketing, and in a genuinely great month you might clear $30,000 to $40,000 in real profit. Stack up 12 months like that, and you're making a few $100,000 a year. To pay back your $1 million investment at that rate, you'd need 3, 4, 5 straight years of being the best club in the city. And remember what I told you. The hot window usually only lasts a few years. You are racing your own expiration date, and that was the optimistic version. Now the realistic one. Something we talked about happens. A newer, shinier club opens 6 blocks away and takes your crowd. Your headline DJ cancels last minute and you eat the deposit. You get hit with a noise complaint that puts your license under review, so you have to close early for a month. A slow winter drops you from 2 strong nights to 1. Suddenly that $150,000 month is an $80,000 month, but your fixed cost didn't move an inch. Instead of clearing $30,000, you're losing $40,000. The difference between a great month and a bad one, in this business, is your entire livelihood, and it can flip in a single season. But honestly, almost nobody makes real long-term money owning one nightclub. The ones who survive treat it the way casinos treat their mega clubs, as a machine to feed something bigger, a restaurant group, a hotel, a real estate play, a promotions empire. The club itself is the flashiest, most fragile, most heartbreaking business you can buy. It's the one that gives you the best 2 years of your life, and then, right when you've fallen in love with it, quietly asks for everything back.